Welcome to the webinar. Please stand by. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dan here on the line with John Weisberger. We'll get started in just a moment. If you wouldn't mind typing into the question box that you can hear what we're doing, that would be awesome. John, I think we're good. I think everything is working.
All right.
So, perfect. All right. So we got 31 people on the call. Thank you guys for taking some time out of your day to join us here today. And this should be a lot of fun. John has got a great topic to talk about here. We'll just give it a couple more moments. There's still some people logging in. First of all, we'll have John's going to talk a little bit about what he does, and as usual, this is a tip time forum. This is open forum. This is for you to ask questions about whatever we're doing here. This is not about chief architect today, so hold your chief architect questions. This is about marketing your business through a strategy that John teaches quite well, and this is what he does in his business. So we'll talk to you about that in a little bit. And we'll be asking questions all along. So please keep your hand on the keyboard so you can comment and type in if you want to get active or if you have any questions about what John's talking about. All right. John, any intro stuff you want to add to that?
Well, I want to thank you, Dan, for having me here today. That's the first thing, first course of business, and I can start ready to get started whenever you are here.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and get started. Everybody's hearing and seeing what we're doing, and let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Dan here with Chief Experts on the line with John Weisberger, who is going to talk today about customer experience marketing, CXM, or I don't even know if you have initials for that, but it's a great topic. John's a good friend. We've been talking on and off for about a year now. We get online once a week, or not so much as often anymore, and just talk a little bit about. We kind of got together talking about internet marketing and things like that, and I've gotten to know a lot about what John is doing in his business and what he's working towards accomplishing online. And it's very fascinating, and it just absolutely fits into with what I'm doing, with what you're doing, with what every business is doing. And John and I have talked, and he's created a bit of a presentation here that he's done in some of his live classes, but he's tailored it a little bit toward you guys in the construction industry. So hopefully that will work out really well today.
All right, so I'll take it away, Dan. Yeah, I do want to thanks Dan for inviting me to talk to you guys today. The topic is customer experience marketing. Some of you may know it as customer experience management, but I'm really excited to say too that I've just published the third book I've actually written, and this one's called Chain Reactions. So in my opening slide here, a little pitch for the book.
And John, I read your book, and it's absolutely fabulous. I mean that in all sense of the words. It's a simple, it's a simple read, but I tell you what, the nuggets of information you got in this little book is it's really good. And I love the little part at the end about tips for writing customer service emails. It's like, it's the stuff we're taught all the time. I keep forgetting.
Yeah, and
some of those
what? I need to get you to put that in writing as a review on Amazon. So
yeah, we'll get it out there.
Thought, right?
We'll get it out there. And
yeah.
And we're not here, you guys are not here promoting the book, but I would recommend that you go to Amazon and look up Chain Reactions. What is it, John? $5 to order?
It is, but actually I'll be doing a launch promotion here very shortly, and you'll be able to get it for 99 cents for the next 30 days or so. So okay. Yeah, check it out.
Yeah.
And
so rest assured, guys, John's not getting rich selling his book by any means, but the content in the book is outstanding. It's a really good little handbook for what John's talking about.
And it's brand new. Dan had one of the advanced copies here, and just launching it. Really excited about it. So a lot of the things I'm going to show today are things that you'll see in the book as well. But let's get started, and we can, as Dan has said, we'll cover this topic.
And bear with me, because I did tell John that I'll probably interrupt a lot and we'll jabber. This is not again, this is free forum, open forum, and we're just going to have a lot of fun with it today. So, and if you guys have questions while he's talking, please ask them.
Yeah, you can too. Feel free to stop or put them in the box, and Dan can relay them to me. I do want to give a bit of a disclaimer here before we get too far. What I'm going to talk about today, I may tend to be, a little opinionated because I'm passionate about my viewpoints about customer experience management, because it is such a powerful way to differentiate your business. So if I offend anybody, I want to say up front that was not the intention, but I am going to try to be brutally honest about what I see out there a lot of small businesses doing. So
hold on, John.
Okay.
James, okay, someone said, how about an active screen? Are you guys seeing the screen? Are you seeing the picture of the cows on the screen right now? Yes. Okay, George. Okay. So, Jim, if you're not seeing it, click the little flower on your toolbar, the little blue flower, and that should bring it to the top. Maybe the screen is behind the other screens. So I just want to make sure everybody's seeing it. So thank you.
Yeah, and I hope this black background doesn't doesn't cause any problems. I use it when I give the large screen presentations at large talks in ballrooms, and the black makes the photographs and things and the white text pop. So I've never tried it on a webinar, guys. Hopefully it isn't causing you any problems.
But, looks great.
But this picture of the cows, really what I want to say is your business isn't all that special. And even in the construction industry, there's lots of competition out there. So one of the things I did look at is I don't care what you're doing, if you're designing, you're a contractor, you're a builder, you're just one of the herd. And to prove that, I took, since Dan lives in Minneapolis area, I took a Google Maps look at the Minneapolis area for builders near Minneapolis, and there was over 4,271 results. So I know we probably have people dialing in from all over the country, but obviously if you live in Minneapolis, you've got a lot of builders that are all competing for the same clients. And you may think you're special, but customers have a lot of alternatives, right? A lot of other types of builders and contractors they could be dealing with, and you want to stand out from that herd. I did a look at designers, kitchen designers, and it came up with 305 results down here. So if your specialty is a designer of kitchen remodels, you've got 305 people that are all competing with you in this geographic area.
But John, everybody's busy right now, so why do they need to be concerned about competition?
Well, there might be a lot of people that are busy, but I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would like to have more business, right? So
more business, or how about more profitable business?
Or more profitable business. Maybe you'd like to attract a more premium priced client, people that are building higher dollar projects, right? So if you position yourself correctly and you give the right experience that attracts the right type of clientele, then you can also collect those premium dollars. So yeah, I know the construction industry is coming back. That's great for everybody, and a lot of people may be having quite a lot of business, but I think almost everybody would say a good problem to have is having too much business. So if you can use customer experience management to bring more people in the door, to create more referrals, and be able to get maybe a different type of client that has larger, more high-dollar projects, more profitable projects, I think we can
someone that really appreciates what a high-quality designer and contractor brings to the marketplace and is willing to pay for that.
Right, and a big part of that, is serving those types of customers, is giving them the type of experience they want and expect, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So really, a big part of this opening is to say, you are one of a herd. Customers do have choices, and your job is to figure out how to make your business stand out from the herd. So I have my orange cow, which is my corporate colors. But, you know, again, you want to figure out how to differentiate yourself. So how do you do that? Well, you may have heard the term customer experience management. It's very much been a topic in all the marketing of all the small business, medium-sized business, large businesses. Everybody is jumping on the idea of giving people what they want and treating people with an experience that they'll remember and tell other people about, and giving them experiences, as it says here, that are worth talking about. And that's what I'm going to use throughout this webinar today, is talking about how do you create those experiences and how can you do it simply without spending a lot of money, without needing any new technologies. Some of the tips we're going to leave you with today are going to be simple things that don't cost anything to do, but can really move the needle on, you know, getting people more engaged with your business. So customer experience is worth talking about. That's what we're going to talk about. I want to tell you a little bit about my background. Dan alluded to it a little bit earlier. But why listen to me? I have 30 years experience working with a lot of corporations, a lot of small businesses, from wineries, you know, family-owned wineries, right up to, you know, multi-billion-dollar corporations. And I go around the world and do strategic alliances. I talk about customer experience management at conventions and workshops. And the thing that I see that's a common theme throughout all these types of businesses, regardless of the industry you're in, regardless of the size of the number of employees you have, your dollar turnover, you know, taking care of the customer is about personal relationships, because business is all about people working with other people and the relationships you have and the feelings that are formed during those exchanges and those relationships. And I've got a lot of knowledge that I've learned over the last 30 years. I put a whole lot of it into my new book, so you can read about some more of my stories and some of those things that I've learned over the past 30 years of my book, but that's probably all I want to say about this today.
Yeah, John, again, thanks, because again, after working with you over the last year and getting to know you a little bit, I mean, it's, yeah, I mean, the things you talk about are so relevant to any business. I mean, what doesn't matter if you're Honeywell, doesn't matter if you're, you know, one person designer or remodeling contractor.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. There's certain elements in every one of those business that we can all jump on to improve our market. And when I was contracting, I was doing a lot of this and didn't even know what I was doing. So it's kind of interesting. And
you know, and that's a good point, Dan. A lot of the stuff isn't rocket science. It's very simple things that you may use. Maybe you're doing it today and you're good. I know companies that, you know, are practicing this right now today, and they're doing a wonderful job of it without any formal thinking about customer experience marketing. And then there's other ones that maybe you've slipped off the pace or slid back, and you get so busy you start, you know, not doing those little extra things like saying thank you or smiling at a customer. So, well,
again, and you look at our industry where, you know, construction industry, where we're dead in the water for 5 years, and then all it comes back, you know, in a tsunami almost, and it's just like we're just boom. And
yeah,
so everything that, you know, over in that 5 years, it got so depressing, we just got tired of trying to be nice, and it's like, oh shit, we better get back online here and make this stuff work so that we can pick out our clients.
But you know what, in other industries, Dan, I don't know what it's like in the construction industry, but in other markets and other industries that I serve, we saw a lot of the weaker players fall by the wayside in the last 5 years. And yeah, those companies that did keep their loyal customers and did practice delivering a positive, strong customer experience, those are the ones that made it through the last 5 years, came out the other side strong, or at least survived, and are now being the beneficiary of, let's call it, a culling of the herd.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
So, you know, even if things are good today, you can't start taking customers for granted, and you can't start, you know, giving them less service right? Thinking that, well, that's no problem. There's another guy lined up down the street, right?
Right.
Those lean times could come back. And even more importantly, those guys, if you don't treat them right, are not going to recommend you to their friends and relatives and generate more business for you.
Exactly.
So that's some of what I'm going to talk about today here. One of the first things we'll cover.
All right, let me just throw in here, guys. I did just put a couple links in the control panel for GoToWebinar. It might be a little orange arrow in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. If you click on that to bring it out, you'll see. You should see in there where I've got a couple links. One is CX Chain Reactions, which will take you to John. A little bit of info about John and a place where you could click to get his $5 book. And the next one I just put in is a place where you can get a couple of handouts that he's produced. Just give him your email, and you'll be able to get those. And then you'll also be, if this is something that's of interest to you, you'll also end up on John's list where he will send you relevant information about this. And it's good stuff. It really is something you should pay close attention to. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, John.
No, thank you. Thanks for reminding me. That's good.
All right. Do we want to do that poll now, by the way? We got 3 questions we want to ask real quick.
Yeah, why don't we put one of them up there?
Okay.
You pick one of the questions there. And
all right, let's go launch the first poll. Okay, guys, if you go to your screen, do you know what customer experience marketing is? And marketing/management, would they kind of be the same? So if
it's a little bit different. That's one of the things I will explain along the way here.
Okay.
But either one, customer experience. Have you heard the term customer experience management? Let's put it in that terms.
All right, Travis said the second link I put in doesn't work. I'll check that here in just a second. Look at that, CX Chain. Oh, it should.
There's no comma on the end of it, I don't believe.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, we got 56 voted. If you guys, anybody else there could vote on this, this would be awesome. We got 54 people on the call, so I'm excited to have you guys here. And 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, and let's see. The results are. Let me share the results real quick. So do you know what customer experience marketing is? We got 15% yes, 48% no, and 36% sort of. So this is a topic that, by looking at this is a topic that a lot of you haven't heard about, or maybe aren't familiar with, but it piqued your curiosity a little bit. So I'm glad you're here, because I think you're going to enjoy this. Let me hide that. Let me do the second question. I got 2 more questions, real simple. Are you actively pursuing customer experience management? Well, based on the answer before, I would say most of you will probably say no, or a little bit. Okay, so I think you guys are going to like this, because you're going to find some ways to do some things in your business, I think, which can make a major impact in your bottom line. So pay attention. This is good stuff. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. We got 60%.
So are you going to do all 3 now, or are you going to save one for later here?
Well, let me see. What was that last question?
What was the last question you had?
All right, we got 62%. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll right now. All right, and I'll show you the results. So we got results. We got 12% yes, 76% no, and 12% a little bit. So great. You guys are in the right place. All right, and let me hide that. And what was the last question we had was, do you actively seek customer feedback during and after the project? Should we just ask that now so we don't have to remember?
Yeah, we'll get them out of it.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and ask this one. Do you actively seek customer feedback during and after the project? You asking your questions, your customers, how are we doing? And what you also might think about, do you preempt your customers with the things that are going to happen on the project? You tell them what's going to go wrong on the project, because stuff goes wrong on every damn project.
That would be a good other question for a poll.
Yeah, true. And so again, are you paying attention to what your customers are saying? And again, John's going to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, so we're up 63%, and I'm going to 3, 2, 1, and close the poll, and we're going to share the results. And we've got 54% of the respondents said yes, they do seek customer feedback. That's awesome. Now, we need to take that feedback and put it to use for your business, okay?
Bingo. That is exactly it. And what we just saw in the polling is all you guys out there, or more than half of you, are soliciting feedback from your customers, but you're not taking advantage of it, or you're not doing anything with the feedback because you're not practicing managing the customer experience and doing things, or that appears from the statistics. So
yeah, exactly.
So let me walk through it, and we'll see.
Let's hide that, and you are back online and ready to proceed.
All right. So what I wanted to,
I'll go ahead and fix that second link here too. So
yeah, just take the comma off the end of it there.
Yep. Okay.
What we thought we'd talk about today is why people are calling 2014 the year of the customer, and I'll get into that a little more, but it really is, when you look at the things that are going on with Zappos and Amazon and Starbucks I'm going to talk about, and you look at the way the marketing is being done today, there's a change, and we're going to talk about how the consumer or the customer, even in B2B relationships, is now in the power seat.
I got it wrong again. I'll fix it one more time.
The customer has all the power today, and they can decide who they're going to spend their money with, so we'll talk about that. The other thing that I want to talk about today with you guys and plant the seed is business is really about the emotional reactions you create in your customers, and if you start thinking about those reactions as the product you're really selling, you'll start to think about your business and the way you run it a little bit differently. And I hope you'll see that throughout the end of the webinar today, that it really is about creating these chain reactions of people taking the steps from, finding out what your business, who you are, to going through a proposal process, to taking delivery of the project, to closing and getting feedback and referring you to other people. It's a chain of events that are all dictated by the emotional reactions people have, and I'll explain that a little more as we go. And then at the end, we'll wrap up and we'll give you some hints and tips that are really just kind of common sense things, but as someone once said, common sense isn't all that common, right? So if you're doing them, fantastic. If you had forgotten and you need to be reminded, this is a good place to get that refresher and start thinking about how you're engaging with your customers. So with that, let's roll into some of the background on customer experience management and why it's such an important thing. So I chose this graphic to just illustrate what I was talking about, that we've entered this age of the customer, and if you look back, last 20, 30 years, 50 years maybe, it was all about, in the early days, about manufacturing and, productivity, and, marketing was about pushing and advertising to people and pushing products on people, right? And then today it's went 180 degrees different, where now it's no longer pushing things on people, but they're pulling on us. They're telling us what they want and what they will accept, and if you don't deliver it, then you don't get their business, right? The power is totally shifted, and marketing needs to be about listening, not about promotion, right?
So the day of the roll the pen across the counter and say, press hard, there's 3 copies, has ended?
Those days are gone, and the days of sitting there and advertising your design services and, buying, radio spots, and, if you watch the old television series Mad Men, right? Mm-hmm. If anybody out there watches that, the days of advertising ruling are over. And now it's more about engagement and communication with your customers through a variety of channels, whether that's a conversation on the phone, a conversation across a design, a desk and a CAD tube, or whether it's a conversation on social media. It's all about engagement and listening and being, empathetic and dealing with people, versus marketing from I got this product and I'm pushing it. The other part in the chart, it talks about, in the 90s and in the early part of the 2000s, everybody was talking about the age of information, and about, companies like Google and Intuit and MBNA for credit. These guys were out, and everything was about CRM. And one of the things Dan asked me earlier, he asked me, is customer relationship management the same thing as customer experience management? And my answer is no, they're really not. When you go out and you look at customer relationship management, you see all the advertising for tools from Oracle or from Salesforce.com, or keeping your contact manager up to date, right? Whatever tool you use. CRM is about the technology and the tools, and about communicating automated messages to your customers, where customer relationship management, or I should say CRM, customer relationship management, is all about technology and tools. Customer experience management is about relationships, as you're going to see, and it's about nurturing those relationships and keeping them strong and keeping people in your good graces so they recommend you highly. So it's really changed, again, how you interact with your customers, and that's what these companies like Facebook and Southwest Airlines and Apple and Zappos. I love Zappos. Their motto is not "we sell shoes." Their motto is "we deliver happiness." And it's a completely different perspective on what it is they're selling and the reaction they're trying to create, right? So when people open that box from Zappos, they want the reaction to be, I am happy, I'm excited, I'm enthused, they exceeded my expectations, they upgraded me to second-day shipping, and I didn't even ask for it. They want to create an experience. They don't just want to sell you some low-price shoes.
And when you say that, John, to me that sounds a little cliche, but when you ingrain that attitude into your employees, and you explain, help your employees understand how it works and why it's important, it does work.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It makes all the difference in that repeat referral and the repeat business.
Yeah.
In fact, to your point, it's proven that it works. Here's a slide that shows the 6-year stock performance of companies that are deemed leaders in customer experience versus ones that have been tagged as laggards. And if you look at the report, they'll give you the list of who's who, but
yeah,
in general,
and
you
guys,
can see.
We're going to give some examples here of how this works in our industry. So,
yep, we'll get there.
Don't be fooled by this. And by the way, as you're watching this, if something comes to mind for you guys that you're doing in your business that helps, what are you doing to make your customer experience better, please type that in. Let's start creating a list here. Put it in the into the chat box, and it'd be fun to create a list, and I'll talk about
and to share amongst us on the webinar, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I know most of you guys are not. A lot of these are larger Fortune 500 companies, but whether you're talking about a stock market index, or if I were just look at if you keep metrics, if you're tracking the customer satisfaction of your client base, if you're tracking what's called Net Promoter Score, which says how likely is a current client to recommend my business to a friend or colleague, the results would be the same. There's leaders and laggards, and this is just a quantitative way of showing that if you practice customer experience, you outperform. These companies have outperformed the S&P 500 by quite a bit, right? So I put it in there just to illustrate what the results can be.
Can I throw out a little example here, John? Back when I was a contractor, I was a contractor from 76 to 96, did exclusively remodeling, and I took great pride in having the cleanest job sites out there. I mean, when I left the job site every day, it was clean, vacuum, typically vacuum, but it was really organized. And I got so many referrals from customers because they would say, yeah, that Bauman guy, he kept my place really clean. He really cared about my house and my property. And yeah, it made a big difference. Plus, it was really nice to come to work the next day to a clean job site. So they had a couple benefits.
Yeah.
But when you think about customer relationship management, I just did it because it seemed like the right thing to do. I didn't realize it was, good marketing and good relationship management.
Well, you're going to see as we go into the deck here a little deeper that those types of impressions matter tremendously, and I'll tell you why in a couple minutes. I want to finish setting this backdrop for the rest of the webinar by finishing going through a few of these slides that kind of talk about why customer experience is important. So one of the examples where most people are familiar with is Starbucks, and there's a lot of coffee shops out there. We've got Arabicas, you've got your Caribou coffees, Seattle's Best, but Starbucks has stood out from all the rest, and it's because of their culture and their emphasis on the experience of having coffee at Starbucks. So if you go into a Starbucks and you're a regular customer, they will call you by name, they will know what you typically order in the morning, and you'll feel like you're a part of a family or a part of a group of people like you. And they've done that so well that they can charge $5 for a cup of coffee. And there's really nothing that different about their coffee than anybody else's. In fact, one of the things I'll show you here, if you think about it, if you go into a McDonald's and you buy a cup of coffee, you'll pay $2 for it maybe. You go into Starbucks and you might pay $4 for that same cup of coffee. And the difference is Starbucks can get it because in a survey, market survey that was done, 86% of consumers say they will pay a premium for a better experience, right? So this slide, what it's showing is if you take something that's like a raw commodity, you can get a few cents for it, you add some value to it by packaging it, you can get a little more money for it, you add some services to it, which everybody used to talk about. You've got to add services. So if you're a builder and all you're doing is being the general contractor, you need to add design services, right? Everybody says you got to add services, but what you really need to add is experiences, because design services, if you're turning off every customer you deal with and they're bad-mouthing you on Yelp or House or one of these other social media websites, you're not going to be creating good positive referrals. So this is numerical proof that you can charge more if you deliver a better experience. Right?
Yes. And it's true. I mean, hell, I'll pay just to get out of the house for a few minutes. The joy of having a home office,
Think about that. Would you pay 10%, 20% more to have an easy check-in in a hotel or to go to a restaurant? You go to a restaurant, one of the things that really irks me is you go into a restaurant and they seat you, and then a waiter or waitress, if they don't show up for 10 minutes to give you your first drink or ask you about your first drink, I'm ready to walk out, right? Yes. And if you go into one where they greet you, they seat you right away, they have a waitress that comes over and welcomes you, tells you her name or his name, and serves you, it takes your first drink order in like the first 3 minutes, I'll go back to that place over and over, right? So, you'll pay a little more for it too, right? You're willing to pay 10% more for that drink perhaps, right?
Well, I tell you one thing in the construction industry, it's always been a kind of a bugger for our industry is, well, there's really kind of two things. First thing is this: if you just show up for your damn appointments when you say you're going to. How many of you out there have heard the story of the homeowner that calls 10 people so they can get 2 or 3 people to show up? If you're on time and you have make a good impression up front, you just you're about 90% closer to closing that deal. And
well, Dan, I had read a statistic that said 30 to 40% of contractors either show up late or don't bother to show up at all.
And don't call.
And don't call. And I'm a firm believer in the old Woody Allen. I think they attribute the quote to Woody Allen about 80% of life is just showing up.
Yep.
Right? Well, you could say 80% of business is just showing up.
Exactly.
And this slide, maybe that's a good segue into this slide about making the customer experience not just easy but effortless. I use Progressive in my talks as an example customer or example business that makes it easy for their customers because they've done a lot of things over the years that I won't go into too much detail about, but they've made it easy to get claims filed, easy to get your car repaired at a body shop, easy to get competitive quotes, you know, for their policy price versus the competitors. But they've done more than just make it easy. They've practically made it effortless. And that's what you got to be thinking about, that when a customer calls you to have a estimate done, right? I don't know, you know, let's say they need a new roof or they need, you know, some remodeling project. When they call you, they do expect you to show up, and they might be taking off work, they might be you know, arranging for someone to open the house for you. I don't know, but you know, at the end of the day, one of the things that frustrates me is when I get an answering machine, right, and then I have to play phone tag 5 times, right, just to get someone to come out and give an estimate on something. So, and Dan, I won't go into it in too much detail, but I was telling Dan about, you know, I just had roof repaired and the ceiling repaired where the water had leaked into the ceiling, right? It was just terrible communications from the contractor. He didn't, you know, he'd schedule the work and then wouldn't show up, or they would, you know, the crew would get busy and get delayed for 5 days and was not getting any communication.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know, I kept having to call them to find out when you coming, why aren't you coming? They never called me. All they had to do was be proactive and call me and keep me informed.
Yeah,
and
text
I would
message, a phone call,
exactly. I
email.
would have been less frustrated, and you know, I wouldn't be in the position of well, I'm certainly not going to recommend them, right? So
Right.
Anyway, I digress. So
Yeah.
Progressive is a good example. Make it effortless, right?
This remodeling contractor, this roofing contractor may be busier than all get out, has too much work. It's like, so they're running, you know, circles trying to get things done rather than let's focus on good customer service and raise our prices a little bit so we can take better care of our customers.
You know what? That was exactly his excuse. He said because of the hard winter and the rainy summer or rainy spring we had, that they're busier than they've been in 15 years.
So there's a good customer experience lesson.
Right?
Learn how to say no.
Well, no, I don't. You know, they did a fine job. The work they did was fine.
Yeah.
Excellent. But their communication skills were just terrible. It was frustrating where they could have kept me a happy guy or a tolerant guy if you just, you know, I have sympathy for them being busy, and I get overly committed sometimes too, right? So, but you got to keep in contact with the customer proactively and tell them what's going on, even if it's a note saying, we're not going to be there, sorry, you know, I'll let you know, but I didn't forget about you, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing is, you know, if the customer feels like you're not thinking about them and you've forgotten about them, they'll turn them off in a heartbeat, right?
Yep.
So the question really is, if customer experience management is so good, why aren't more businesses using it? And what we found is most businesses have a perception versus reality disconnect. And I think there's a lot of that is going on in small business all over the country. It's not just in the contracting or designer business. It's in CPAs and doctors and dentists and landscapers and you name it, right? That they believe they're given a level of customer service, but when you ask their customers, the customers don't reflect that same belief. And the statistics here on this slide bear that out, that Brad Tuttle went out and did a survey of companies, and he asked their executive management or their owners, proprietors, said, do you believe you're delivering superior customer service? And 8 out of 10 of them came back and said, yes, we believe we are giving awesome experiences, superior customer service. He then went back and asked the customers of those same companies what they thought, and only 8% of them rated those customers or those clients Now, 8% of those people rated those companies, as giving superior customer service. So clearly a disconnect, right?
Yeah, when I read that in your book, I chuckled. It's like, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, most businesses aren't doing as good a job as they think they are. There's always room for improvement, right?
Yeah.
So the takeaway I want you guys to remember is, it doesn't matter what you think. It's the customer's reaction to the experience they get when they deal with you. That is reality. It doesn't matter what you think. It's what they believe. And so I picked on this company here called 210 Home Buyers Warranty. And if you watch their YouTube videos and you listen to them, they talk about, their great customer service and what a good company they are, and everything's great. But if you go online here to homewarrantyreviews.com, I believe you can probably see it on your slides there, 675 reviewers all say they're doing pretty bad. They all gave them 2 stars or less, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They better do a little checking online to see what their perceived level of customer satisfaction is, right? Mm-hmm. Because if I went to this website and I reviewed them, I'd be going over to the top companies listed on the right-hand side, right, with 4 or 5 stars. I'd rule them out immediately, right? So again, they could be thinking that they're doing a phenomenal job, but in reality, it doesn't matter what they think, right? And to the point about looking online, if you don't think social media and online reviews are important to your business, you really need to think again, because 58% of Americans do some kind of online research about the products and services they're considering before they make a purchasing decision. And this is a 2010 number, so in reality it's 4.5 years old. I would argue that 58% is probably north of 60%, maybe 70% today, because I know that I don't really buy anything. You can talk about showrooming, where people will go look at a product in a store, but I don't buy it. I'll still go back and read reviews before I buy anything, before I stay anywhere, before I get on a flight. I'm always looking online to see what other people have to say about their experience with that product or service, right?
I know my wife's all over that, man.
It can save you a lot of grief, right?
Exactly.
Right? So if you don't think what people are saying, if you're 210 Home Warranties, you better be out there doing some monitoring of what's being said about them online and doing some things to correct that. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because when you talk about chain reactions, you think about Twitter today and Facebook and Google Plus and LinkedIn. People on average, Americans on average, will tell 9 people of 9 of their friends or relatives about good experience they have, but they'll tell 16 about their poor experiences. So if you look at the chain reaction and the spread of a tweet, for example, that gets retweeted and then retweeted again, you could have a public relations nightmare that happens in a heartbeat, right? All because you said the wrong thing to the wrong person, or you treated somebody crudely, and the next thing you know, they're telling the world about it. So you also have to be very careful today about what you say to people, how you treat them.
I'd be curious, you guys on the call, are you guys using Twitter in your business? Do you follow Twitter? Personally, I have not got into it yet. I know I should, and everybody talks about how great it is. It's just like I just have not gone there. I'd be curious if you guys are in that yet. And like with all social media, of course, we have to pay attention to all different facets of it. But I guess maybe one day we'll figure out how Twitter can help the construction industry. But it's out there. I mean, you can bet your customers are using it probably if we're not. So they're more than likely talking about it, talking on it to their friends. I know my kids use it.
Yeah, my kids use it too, but you're right. I would be interested in how people in the construction industry and designers, how they're using it. I think it might be more appropriate to different types of businesses, right? But yeah, it's Twitter. I haven't figured out, quite honestly, Dan, how to use it to drive customers to me, right?
Yeah.
You know, Facebook, Google Plus, LinkedIn, you know, those types of social media things are clearly are, but Twitter, there seems to be a lot of just chatter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's impossible to keep up with.
But again, if someone does use it and they tell their friends and that thing gets retweeted, I can give you examples. In my book, there's a couple examples of, you know, of PR negative publicity that happened that spread like wildfire through the social media, and you know, there's good things that can happen too. I would love it if people got online and tweeted about my new book, and you know, tweeted it to millions of people. That would be wonderful, right?
Well,
as long as they like it, right? So
we got a couple dozen responses, and only a couple people are dabbling with it. No one's
okay.
No one says they're using it.
Actually, not that surprising.
No.
The next thing, so you know, we're talking about here, right? Americans tell a lot of people, you know, they tell 9 people about their good experiences, 16 about their bad. So the question you need to be thinking about is, where's your next referral going to come from, right? You know, you do a wonderful kitchen redesign or bathroom, you know, remodel, and you do a wonderful new construction job, right? You want those people out telling people about how easy it was to deal with you and how you made the whole process as stress-free and anxiety-free as possible, right? And that they felt really comfortable dealing with you. They felt you were open and honest and transparent and kept them informed. But you know, that's one source. But I chose the picture of a painter here for a specific reason. And it's because you never know where your next referral is going to come from. And while it's not directly related, I'm going to tell you just a quick story about these realtors, Mike and Jay, that are in Dallas, that found out they were getting these referrals, you know, that were coming in, and they found out
the
they were all
realtors,
comknow, the
realtors
are getting referrals, right? There's clients coming in that said, hey, I want you to list you know, I want to list my house with you. And they're going, yeah, how'd you hear about us? And they go, well, Joe the painter told us, right? And it turns out they started looking and keeping track of it, and 30% of the leads and referrals they were getting into their real estate business were coming from this one painter that was going around the Dallas area, and as he was painting insides of houses, as people were doing refreshes before listing their house on the market, people would ask him, say, hey, you know any good realtors? And he'd go, yeah, Mike and Jay. Right, and it turns out they believed they were getting 30% of their business out of that one painter. So they went and they met him and talked to him more, and you know, started courting him and schmoozing him a little more, and he started pumping up the volume on their business even more. And eventually, I think they're getting 4 out of 10 of their leads now are attributed to this guy's, as he goes around every day talking to homeowners who are refreshing, repainting their houses, perhaps to list. He mentions Mike and Jay, and they reward him with tickets to ball games and things like that, right?
So any of you guys out there, you got people that are referring your business that you could court, you know, pay a little bit closer attention to. Put that in the text box if you do. I'd be curious to know. You know, if you know, architects would be a good example.
It's as simple. Everybody should be doing some kind of cross promotion between, you know, businesses if they can, but even people that are in a little different portion of the market than you, like a painter or a landscaper, you know, you need to make sure that they know who you are and that they want to recommend you, right?
Yes.
So shifting gears a little bit, so now we want to talk about how you look at your business, right, and how you look at the product or the service you sell, you know, the home plans, if you're looking at being a kitchen designer, right, you know, it's all about a matter of perspective. So because you guys are all chief architect users, you know, you're Dan's followers, right, I thought I'd put a little CAD slide up there trying to show a little bit of a, you know, understanding of what you guys do, right? So, but really, I want you to think about your business a little different. And when you think about what a business sells, you know, I don't care if you're selling designs. I don't care if you're selling fixtures, maybe you're in the hardware portion of the business and you're, selling fixturing. Really, all businesses sell just one thing, and that one thing is reactions, right? You want to sell positive outcomes for your customers, and you want to see that smiling face when you're done building that house, when you're done doing that remodel, right? You want to see your clients just overjoyed. You want to see them emotional. You want to make them cry, maybe if you can, right?
Cry in a good way.
In a good way, right? I knew I'd get that reaction from you, Dan, right?
Well, the first time you told me this, first time we talked about this slide, it's like, shit, yeah, God, that's easy. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, that's really what we're all selling. We're selling, well, we sell lots of stuff, but the bottom line is, how when we leave the job, what is our customers' reaction? The customers, I hate those guys, they screwed me over so bad, I'll never, blah, 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 or those guys are wonderful, I want everybody in the world to know about them and, promote them to death.
Yeah, and you don't want that buyer's remorse. I mean, how many times, hopefully not a lot, but, people buy things, and then once the transaction's done, they take possession of the house or the new car or something, they go, oh, man, did I do the right thing? It's really not as nice as I thought it was going to be. You got to make sure that you can do everything in your power to make sure that handover, is a positive experience, and that they don't have any buyer's remorse when they're done with that big, when they do that $60,000 kitchen remodel project and all those new cabinetries and the new lighting and everything just looks gorgeous, that they sit back and they go, man, I got more than I really expected.
Yeah, well,
that's the reaction you want, right?
Well, I love Anne Marie's comment. My best reaction is a customer wants to give me a hug. So
that is exactly that is what you're striving for. Is more hugs. I like that.
So how do you rectify, Anne Marie adds, how do you rectify a customer's negative or disappointing experience or reaction? That's kind of a broad question to answer.
It is a hard question because it's not, it's something that is a process, right? And we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
So let me continue on that thought for a minute about reactions. Your customer is always going to have some kind of reaction to every engagement, every interaction they have with you, whether it's sitting down from the initial proposal to, taking possession of the finished job at the end. They're going to have multiple reactions, and they could be good, bad, or indifferent. Of course, our job is to make them all good, right? But they're going to have a reaction because people are human, right? We're not all Mr. Spocks, and so I'm showing some of my geekiness and my age by showing, Mr. Spock here, but customers aren't logical beings. They don't ask the questions about how much does it cost and what's the feature. They do, but at the end of the day, they're really thinking more about how do I feel about this project? What will my friends think? What will my neighbors think? How will it affect me? Right? They're really thinking more like Homer Simpson, right? Who's more interested in pleasure and feeling than the, well, how many, I don't know, some good metrics, but, how many feet of lumber are you going to use, or how long does it take for the concrete to cure, right? They're not going through all the dollars and cents and that nature. They want to know more about outcomes. So people, when you talk about reactions, you got to remember people are human and they're not ruled by logic. They're ruled by emotion, right?
Right.
So the question you got to ask yourself is, are we adding to people's positive reactions, or are we subtracting from them? And this is something I'll attribute. Dan gave me the lead on this particular chart that I guess it's often referred to as remodeling fever, but I thought it really illustrated the roller coaster of emotional reactions people go through, especially in projects like you guys do, right? So from, the day you're all excited about the job beginning, right, to the day they start doing the drywall sanding and there's dust everywhere and, the kitchen's a mess, there's highs and lows, and your job, if you can, to the best of your ability, is to make sure that the expectations are set up front, that the customer understands they're going to go through these emotional highs and lows, and maybe that step number 5 here in drywall sanding, maybe it doesn't, the low spot is a little bit higher. Maybe the trough isn't as low as it is here, right?
Yeah, and guys, this is a great slide. And actually, I learned this from Walt Stuppleworth back in the early 80s. He talked about this quite a bit, remodeling fever. It's our job as contractors to recognize when our customers are reaching that low point in the remodeling project, because it happens. And it's our job to interact and get them, clarify to them, hey, this is normal, you're feeling normal, just hang on, we're going to get you back up here to, up to the top of the chart here as soon as we can. And just hang in there. And I'd be curious to know, do any of you guys out there talk to your customers about this before you start a project? I used to have a form I used that talked about this, and I would explain it before the project started. And I would explain that, okay, when we're going to dig the hole and we're going to put the foundation in, and you're going to look at it and go, God, that room looks so small. Why didn't we make it bigger? And I'm saying that's a normal reaction. Once we get the floor on and the walls up, you're going to walk in the room and go, wow, this is a big room. So again, normal reaction. So if you point that stuff out ahead of time, dealing with your customer, you're going to, those emotions that they're going to be feeling, you can level that line out a little bit. You're still going to have your peaks and valleys, but you can level it out. Just Google remodeling fever and hit your images tab, and I think you'll find this chart. You'll find some other ones too that talk about this a little bit. It's a great, it's a great thing to talk about with your customers when it comes to that customer experience. So.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect example, and the example you just talked about, Dan, is a perfect example of managing the experience, right? You proactively told them that they're going to have these types of roller coaster emotions throughout the project, right? Yeah. And by proactively informing them of and setting expectations, so often experience management is about managing and setting expectations, right? Mm-hmm. You can avoid all those negative feelings and some of that buyer's remorse or getting negative comments on social media just by the fact that you set expectations up front and then kept repeating those expectations as the project went along to the point where it sunk in. You can't just do it once and then say, oh, they're going to remember it for the length of the project. You also kind of got to remind them throughout that this is normal, and that's where the keeping them informed comes in, right, as well. Right?
I used to have a form that listed everything that was going to go wrong on their project. And I would, then it also had a little bit about, hey, you hired a reputable guy here, we're going to take good care of you. So just expect that these things, they just happen. Stuff happens. But we'll be there to take care of it and make it right. Don't worry about it. And I would have them sign that form as part of the agreement, the contract. And there's on more than one occasion, I pulled that out halfway through the project because the customers were just like, so depressed because they reached one of those valleys. And I said, remember we talked about this in the beginning here. I even had you sign the form. And they go, oh, that's right. Then they're put at ease. And it's just like, and on we go.
Yeah. So this is a good example of, managing expectations.
Yeah.
So essentially, McKinsey, another big research firm, did a study, and it said that 70% of all buying experience are based on how the customer feels they're being treated. It has nothing to do with the quality of the product, the timeliness of the service being delivered. It really has to do with how they feel they're being treated. I'll give you an example. You walk into a dry cleaner's and your cleaning's not done on the day they told you. If they just blow you off and say, "Oh, it's not done, get out of here," right? You're going to feel one way. If they sit there and they make it feel like, yeah, well, we're sympathetic, and yeah, I really feel, and we're so sorry, and just the fact that you feel like you're being treated fairly and everything will make a big difference, right? So 7 out of 10 people right? You know, it's really all the buying experiences. It's all about how you feel and whether they, you know, feel they're being treated fairly.
Well,
I like to.
let me chime in on that one for a second. You know, you guys, you hear about, you know, you're always worried about, you know, selling the job at a, you know, low, you know, giving the customer a good deal. Yeah, I shouldn't say worried about, but you know, we're always trying to be competitive. And I'll tell you for a fact that my worst projects and my worst clients were the ones that I gave a good deal to. Do you think they were excited about the good price, even though the project got done? As opposed to the clients where I made the best margins. Okay, similar projects, you know, really nothing majorly different in the quality of the outcome. It's just that when I worked with the people that I wasn't making much profit on, you know, guess what? Just as a inherent gut, whatever was going on in me, I didn't give them the best service. I gave the people that were paying me more money. So guess what happened? So they were pissed off because I wasn't giving them the service I was giving my other people. And that's because I set up that situation. And so it was my fault for selling the job for too low. Now I'm getting the negative emotions on them because I'm not taking as good care of them as I should be. Because you just can't do it when you undersell the job.
Yeah, you know, I've heard that from so many different types of businesses. Your higher dollar clients tend to be your best clients, and they're more, how would I put it? They just don't complain. You know, sometimes it's because, you know, they're not putting as much, because they are higher dollar clients and they have more financial means. They're not putting as much at risk maybe, but
well, and they don't necessarily
general,
know they're paying more. I mean, I'm not telling them that, hey, I'm charging you a lot more than this other guy.
But you know, the guy that's stretched to achieve a budget to do a remodel, right? The guy that's really stretching to get there is probably has more anxiety and more likely to complain about it than the guy that sits there and goes, yeah, you know, it's not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, but you know, I've heard this over and over that your premium priced clients tend to be less complaining.
Yeah.
Like less complainers. I like this Jeff Bezos comment here. You guys probably know he's the CEO of Amazon.com, and he says, you know, they like to see their customers as being guests to a party and they're the host, and it's their job to make every aspect of the experience a little bit better. And I think it's really an interesting aspect, being that they're an online company that don't have brick and mortar storefronts where clients are coming in, but they still treat all their engagements with their customers, whether it's through chat, whether it's through phone support, email support, they still want their employees and everybody to think like it's their job to treat all their customers like their guests, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just an interesting perspective when we talk about, you know, how do you see your business and what it is you're really selling. So the takeaway to kind of wrap up this section of, you know, saying the backdrop is, you know, there's the old saying in retail about customers remember the service a lot longer than they remember the price, right? So when they go out and they talk about the experience they had at a particular you know, vendor of something, it could be a contractor, it could be a restaurant, it could be a car dealership. When they tell stories about their experience to their friends and relatives, they're typically not going to sit there and talk about the price. They're going to talk about how they were treated, right? You don't open up your story, yeah, I just went to this restaurant and, oh, the food was 20 bucks for this, 40 bucks for that. They're going to sit there and go, no, the service was slow, the environment was kind of noisy and terrible, right? They're just going to remember the service more than remember the price. And I got to believe it's the same thing with a designer. Let's say you're a designer, they're going to remember how much you talked to them, how much you helped them through those difficult times, how much time you spent explaining the trade-offs between one design decision versus another. You know, did they feel like they were being rushed in a decision? That's the stuff they're going to remember, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. You're going to touch on some of that right now.
Yep, a little bit as we get through here. So we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about your business mechanics just a little bit and how you can work to make sure that the emotional reactions we just discussed, you know, the question really becomes, and I think Dan asked one of you, you know, again, how do you, you know, improve and get those hugs, and how do you improve the emotional reactions? Well, what I'm going to talk about for the next 2 or 3, 4 slides is a little bit about how you do that. But back to that perspective thing, I call my book, my process, Chain Reactions, because it's really about creating a chain of reactions during what's called the customer journey. And we're going to talk about what that is right here. So in marketing, there's this idea of treating all the steps in the process of doing business with someone as a journey. And it really is a chain where if you look at it from the very highest level of the chain with just 3 links, all businesses, I don't care what you are, what you sell, there's really 3 high-level portions of an engagement with a customer, and that is a pre-sales side of the business. Then you take an order, and then after they've taken delivery of the product, there's post-sales service, and that's where the customer service piece comes in. And many of the marketing manuals you read today or gurus you hear online, everything talks about customer service, but customer service really only starts after the sale when you think about it, right? Customer returns or handling, complaints, or you get a call back because we remodeled your house and we put the new thermostats in, and now the homeowner can't figure out how to program them, right? So I get a call back, and that costs me money. That's post-sales service. Plus, you don't want to be getting callbacks, right? You want to make sure that's all handled up front. But customer experience management starts at that very first pre-sale. So that's why we also say customer experience management is not the same thing as customer service. So you need to be measuring and working at improving both ends of the chain here, if you will. If you take the chain down a cycle, down a level to this customer journey, each one of those pre-sales, ordering, post-sales all have steps in them. And those steps are what you call touch points. And the idea of a touch point is everywhere a client engages with your business, whether it's with a person or a physical process, those are areas where the client interacts with some business system or person within your company, and it's an opportunity to either wow them or to turn them off totally. Some people call them magical moments or misery moments, right? So what we're going to talk about is some of those touch points and moments, but because we got limited time today, I'm only going to focus on this pre-sales piece, because really my idea of customer experience marketing is really about how can I improve the pre-sales engagement and selling part of my business to attract more clients and to retain more of the clients I currently have and get them to be advocates and give referrals for my business and also do more business themselves with me, right? So I'm going to focus on this pre-sales part. So when you think about that pre-sales piece, it's all about first impressions, right? And the first impressions.
This could be a website, this could be brochures, this could be business cards.
Everything.
The way you dress, the car, the vehicle you drive, your job signs, your office, on and on.
Absolutely, it's everything, and being an author, I'll use the metaphor, people judge books by their covers. Well, guess what? They do judge books by their covers, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so when you think about improving your business and, looking at creating customer loyalty and advocacy and referrals, it's really the first thing you want to look at is what kind of first impression am I giving? It's how do we look to the customer, right? Or what do we do? What's our body language say? What we say, how we say it, because they will judge you very quickly about what they see. And that's where I want to give you a few ideas today, or a few things that I hope will make you think about things. You might go, oh, aha, that's interesting, or maybe you'll have a change in perspective of how you run your business. But this pre-sales piece is what we'll talk about today, and then If you like what you're hearing, I'd be happy to come back, Dan, and delve into the next two pieces of the chain, right?
Sure.
So let's talk about online first impressions. Dan was spot on when he was talking about all these things about business cards and websites and everything. Everything matters. So I picked examples of interior designers here, and I pulled up two websites. And my impression of these two, if I look at the one on the left, and I won't call her out by name here, but I look at that and I go, you know, it's not very glitzy for a designer. And yeah, okay, I see she's on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, and you know, I'm featured, and I got an email sign-up form. But you know, the photograph of a bathtub doesn't do anything to make me want to say she's a, you know, creative, artistic designer that's going to do a, you know, an awesome job on my house. So I would click on to the next website. Yet if I saw the website on the right, my first impression is, wow, guy's got some artistic flair, right? You know, and clearly they've extended that, you know, into their website. So which one would you pick if you wanted to get more information on something? I'm not saying you'd make your buying decision based necessarily on that first, but which one would you pick to learn more about?
Well,
right?
The left one, because I feel sorry for him. No. No. I mean, obviously, I mean,
So,
yeah, and you know, and I'm totally guilty of it myself. I mean, on my website, and I think a lot of you guys out there will be too, in that you're so damn busy doing things all day long. You got work coming in. You know, you think, well, maybe the website's working. I don't know. In my case, I don't have time to go out and do it. And so
yeah,
finally,
the question is the pipeline there? Right,
yeah.
and is it going to dry up next year because the bulge and, or you know, the big push?
What a better time to do it though, while you're busy and you're making money. Let's hire someone to come and fix it up. There's a lot of good people out there that, yeah.
Yeah, I would say if you haven't looked at doing it, number one, you'd be amazed how many small businesses still don't have websites.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and there's no excuse for that. You can get free ones out there today on Weebly and, you know, other places, right?
Yeah.
Google. But if you do have one and you haven't done a refresh on it in the last 4 years, you know, if you still got the same website you had in 2008, you know, you might want to Dan's point, think about updating it. It's cheaper than it ever was. It's easier as a do-it-yourselfer if you want to do it yourself. You know, you can go out on Fiverr.com or Elance.com. You can hire people to do a website for $50, $100, $200. You don't need to spend. You don't need to spend $4,000 on a website.
That brings up a great question that I told you not to talk about in this, and you're not going to, but it's something we should maybe consider doing another webinar on, just specifically this topic, and that's outsourcing. Would you guys be interested in learning a little bit more about outsourcing? Where can you find help to do this stuff? You know, in outsourcing doesn't necessarily mean overseas. Outsourcing, there's a lot of, you know, U.S. outsourcers that you can give business to that are very affordable. So
yeah, and it's a matter of degree. Like I say, getting a website done for $50 on Fiverr or something, that's not necessarily outsourcing, right? You know, that's just paid service, right? That guy could be sitting in your hometown next to you, right? It's just the way he promotes his business is. But the point really is if anybody's trying to sell you $4,000 website design packages and $500, $600 a month SEO optimization, you really don't necessarily need all that stuff. There's other ways to get it done.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd be happy to talk about that some other time, but I don't want to run out of time here either. So
yeah, we could go for another 2-3 hours. I'm sure pretty good
on some of this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So first impressions online, very, very important, because today, as you saw, 58% of people out there are looking online for reviews. They're visiting your website before they decide who to engage to research further or who to buy from. It is so important. That doesn't mean that offline first impressions are important either.
Yeah.
In fact, I won't go into it in any detail, but in my book I tell a story about an offline first impression I had last summer with a business that as soon as I walked into the business, I knew we weren't going to do any business with them. It just, the emotional reaction I had to what I saw.
Oh, I remember you telling me about this. This is a great story.
Yeah, but it really comes down to, you know, what does your parking lot look like, right? As Dan said earlier, what's your external signage look like? You know, do you look like you're a quality company, or you know, are you letting your landscaping be overgrown and you're not cutting your grass and people are going, gee, I don't know if they're ready to file for bankruptcy or not, right? You know, would you walk into a design studio that you know, had graffiti all over the outside? The point is, this example I'm using here is of a hotel, right? But who would stay in a hotel that looks like that? I'm amazed they're even in business, right?
Well, we might want to guess.
Yeah, but the point, I need to find maybe a better example, but the example in my book that Dan was talking about or mentioned there was, you know, I was looking for a partner to do business with, and everything was great from an online first impression. All my phone conversations with the managing director were great, but when I went and looked at his building and his offices and his business, that's when I saw the true nature of his business and what it was all about, and you know, saw that I didn't think they were going to be able to deliver the quality of product I was looking for, and the strategic relationship we were looking for.
This is for your Honeywell job, right? You work with Honeywell.
Yeah, this was looking for a strategic alliance partner for Honeywell, and we walked in and we said these guys would never, I mean, the moment we walked in the door we said they won't meet our criteria for a strategic alliance partner.
And I remember you telling me the reasons why, and it's like I went, holy crap. And how big of a contract are you talking about here?
Well, this could have been multi-million dollars. This could have been, you know, $5–10 million a year in product they might have supplied to us, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, the idea of those first impressions, if you're a designer that has a studio, if you're a contractor that, you know, meets people in your office when you're doing proposals, you know.
You know, if a customer calls you for a $100,000 kitchen remodel and you drive up in a rusty old pickup with tar all over your shirt and pants and you know, tennis shoes that are ripped, you're probably not going to get the job.
Probably not. Right. That's a good point. I should put a picture of an old rusty truck on here. But it is so often the case. You know, people do judge again by the lobbies, by the way they're greeted. You walk in and there's you know, let's say there's books and samples of stuff. You know, if you're samples of materials, if you're someone that refurbishes, you know, couches or whatever, if your materials spread all over the place and it looks like a madhouse, they're probably figure you're running it like a madhouse, right?
Yeah.
Another key takeaway, same way about first impressions, is, you know, I'm sure you've seen this before, right? But 93% of what we communicate is done through body language. So if I was sitting there listening to a client telling me what they want, and I was doing the Simon Cowell scowl up there in the upper left-hand corner, or I was the gentleman sitting down in the bottom right-hand corner, and I'm sitting there with my arms crossed in that expression, listening to my client, would you think they were very interested in doing business with you or taking what you're saying seriously? Absolutely not, right? So we need to be conscious when you're dealing with customers face-to-face, when you're out at their job site, and you're talking with them, that you're not sitting there giving them, you know, nonverbal signals that says, why'd you call me out here, and why do I have to come all the way out here to meet with you to talk about this or that? You know, you got to act like you want to be there, be in the moment, right? Be present and put the game face on and be friendly and smile, and then have your emotional reaction away from the customer if you need one.
Exactly.
Right. When you are talking with a customer, and this is also true of email, so many people they fall back when they do email to bad habits where they get less personal and they forget about, it's even harder to communicate tone and intent in email. But you need to look at how you say things and practice it and get your employees to practice it here, right? So here's my examples, right? What else do you want versus is there anything else I can do for you? Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So
what do you want?
Yeah.
What are you calling me for?
Exactly. Right. And So anyway, the point is, you know, body language first, then think about the tone you're having with your clients,
and that's just where, yeah, when I alluded earlier to your list on the email things you should do in your book, it's like, every time I do an email, and I struggle, should I do more, should I do less, so I kind of just do them when I can. And one of my rules of writing an email, and sometimes I forget this, is just write the email to my best friend. Write an email to a friend. And that's how I try to do most of my emails. I just like making a note to my friend. Hey, I got this great thing coming up. I think it'd be good for you, blah, 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 and I send it out. I don't try to make some big marketing piece and stuff. Lately I've been doing, trying to do pictures and stuff in them, and I'll probably just go back to the text base here in a little bit. But, just trying different things. And just in all your emails, and I see some emails come through from some of my clients. They're, their little monthly brochures and things like that. And I like what Michael Stone has done with his emails. He used to send a big, long, huge newsletter and email, and it's like, well, I'll read it later. Well, guess what? I never read it later. Now he sends out a one-paragraph thing to his blog article, which is that old email, that old newsletter. And I'm more inclined to click on it right now and say, oh, I'm going to check this out right now, boom, and read it. And so now I interact with it right away. And because I can read his email quickly and go, oh, I'd like to know about that, boom. Go look at it, and I think that works better. So as you guys in your business start doing email, or when you're online doing your posting and things like that,
well,
yeah, go ahead, John.
Well, I was just going to say, do all that, and the other part about email that I want to make sure I don't forget before we move on off this piece of email is, it's okay. You don't have to return all emails within 30 minutes or 6 hours. In fact, 24 hours or less is typically considered a good email response. So, what Dan's talking about is tone, and that's what I'm talking about on this slide. But the other part of email is it's a powerful tool to keep your customer informed, right, or to answer their questions. And if you can get them to communicate with you with email, it certainly allows you to do that time shifting that allows you to respond without it being interrupted, right? So, I know everybody today, has cell phones, and a lot of contractors, smaller businesses, the call goes right to the cell phone for the rep, right, or to the guy that's out on the site doing estimates of reshingling of a roof or something, right? A lot of times they're answering their cell phone, they're out on the job site. Mm-hmm. That's great if you can do that, but it isn't necessary all the time. Once you get the customer, once you've made that engagement, you've got the personal connection, email is a wonderful way to do your interactions. And like I said, it allows you to time shift. So just remember, use the right tone. If you're writing an email at 10 o'clock at night answering their question, you think the question's stupid, don't sit there and go, why are you asking me a stupid question? Or don't imply that tone, right? But 24 hours or less is usually considered good, and returning calls by 9 a.m. the next morning is typically okay. But don't make them call you again. That was my complaint earlier. Anyway, let's roll on before we run out of time.
Hey guys, thanks for hanging in. There was still, a few of you had to go, but for the most part, everybody's still here. So really
we're
cool.
Getting to we're coming towards the end here. Another big thing is just smile and say hello within the first 2 seconds. There's so many people that today, you walk into any business or establishment, and they act like you're intruding on whatever it is they're doing. Right, like, what are you doing here? Oh yeah, I got a new customer, I got to check them out at the grocery store or whatever. I can imagine for you guys, the advice I would give you is when you get out of your truck and you walk up to the client, or the client comes in to meet them with a big smile and a handshake, and act like you're excited to be there and excited to see them.
Well, don't act like you're loaded, but do it.
Well, you saw there's that sweet spot in the spectrum of tone, right? So
yeah.
The other thing that I thought was very interesting, so I put it in the deck here today, is there was another survey that was done by Contact Point, and they went out and they started talking to some people that interacted with businesses, and it turns out that most employees of the businesses they survey were only asking for the customer's name 21% of the time. So the big tip that I have for you is, customers have a name 100% of the time, and they like hearing it. So get into the habit when you're talking to your customers of using their name periodically, saying, hey, Jane, I think that's a great idea, or hey, Pete, yeah, we can do that for you, right? And it's hard to do, but
yeah, that's
it's very powerful.
It's that old thing when you meet someone, you say, hi, I'm Dan, and they say, hi, I'm Mr. Smith, and you go, well, hi, Mr. Smith, it's nice to meet you, and then you say, oh, by the way, Mr. Smith, what a great day it is, and then you one more time, hey, Mr. Smith, mind if I, should I take my shoes off? And if you,
or Mr. Smith, can I call you Dale, right?
Yeah,
or Pete, right? Find out and then treat them like there's a relationship there, because guess what? That'll form the relationship, right?
Yeah, but you do have to make a conscious effort to do that.
It's hard.
It is hard. It is tough, and I usually when someone calls me, the first thing I do is write their name down. So as I'm talking to them, because I don't visit a lot of people these days, so as I'm talking to them, I because if you get in a conversation, go, oh God, what was his name again?
Well, here's what I do the same thing too, and it works really well when I'm dealing with a sales rep, right? Or even when you're dealing with some wait person at a restaurant or a bar or wherever, they tell you their name, and it's okay to use it then afterwards, right? And you will get so much better service and attention if you acknowledge your servers as people, right? Or your bartender, right? Call your bartender by name, right? Or when you're dealing with a plumber.
Boy, if you want great service in a restaurant, smile and have a conversation with your server or bartender. They'll take really good care of you.
Yeah,
it doesn't hurt to throw them a little tip up front too.
It's about relationships and emotional reactions, and it's a two-way street, right?
Yeah.
So kind of wrapping up here, I want you to just remember this, that the idea of customer experience management and customer experience marketing, which we didn't get into all the details about that today. This is more of a primer on what is customer experience, but the marketing aspect is finding ways to create these emotional reactions, and there's techniques and things and training you can get that will help you use the generation of experiences as a way to market and grow your business. But today was more about what is customer experience, why is it important, what are some simple things I can do to make sure that people are having a positive experience. And I wanted you to remember that from a pre-sales piece, everything, customer experience is more than just customer service after the sale. Mm-hmm. There's a whole journey the customer goes through from discovering who you are, evaluating what you can do for them, how you can meet their needs, going through the proposal process, coming up with a design, writing a check, getting the construction kicked off. As you saw through that remodel fever graph, there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of touch points to engage the customer. And at every step in that customer journey, you want to create a positive reaction and have that whole chain of reactions lead to a happy, satisfied customer that's loyal, that'll come back to you and refer you to their friends. And if you do that, okay, and you create those great chain reactions, you'll never lose. You're going to have the jobs you want to take. You're going to get better clients that'll pay you more money. You'll be attract a higher caliber of clientele, and they'll refer you to their friends who will tend to be higher caliber clients as well, because you will be known as the cow that stands out from the herd, back to my opening slide, right?
Yep.
And you'll differentiate yourself because, as you saw earlier, nobody's doing this, or not enough people are doing this, and it can be your competitive advantage, right, against the next best alternative, which is one of those other 4,000 builders in the Minneapolis area at least, right? Yeah. You want them talking about you. You want Joe the painter talking about your business, right? Not the guy down the street, right?
And you guys, you may be doing some of this stuff already, and maybe doing a lot of it, and you just don't even realize that you're doing it. Understand that when you look at those things that you're doing to really make your customer experience the best it can possibly be, those are, not a lot of people are doing those kind of things. So you are the cream of the crop when it comes to that.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to wrap up by just repeating once again. I do have a couple of free handouts you guys can get if you just put your email address in my sign-up form. Again, Dan put the link in the chat box earlier, but it's at bit.ly/cxchainreactions. You can sign up. I got a couple of handouts that give you 5 simple rules you can follow to create massive customer satisfaction. And the other handout is a fairly short but pretty good self-assessment as to how ready is your business to do customer experience management. It kind of makes you answer 9 kind of broad stroke questions, but they quickly just tell you whether you're really thinking about this stuff or not.
Yeah,
right.
It helps create some awareness.
Create some awareness
in what you're already doing.
And if you guys would be interested in these slides, this presentation, drop Dan a note and tell him, and we can make those available too.
All right, cool. I got a couple questions here that you guys go ahead and ask questions away here. We can talk about stuff for as long as you want to stay on. I know some of you probably have to go, and the fact that we do 90-minute webinars is not a lot of people do them that long. So guys, thanks for hanging in, and I mean, you guys were awesome.